Hey, I am excited to show you this new feature on Illustrator. Well, new to you, as we've been drawing things out so far. So previously we've talked about the pen tool and the curves tool and kind of designing your own pattern. And I want to show you now how you can import a picture and actually have Illustrator trace it for you. So I'm going to come over to File and then Place. And let's see, I've got it saved on my desktop. Here it is. So this is just a quick line drawing that I did. And then I choose someplace empty on the artboard and go ahead and click. And that will place that drawing. Now, one thing you'll notice about the drawing is I've made sure that I have a border all the way around the edges. And I've made sure that there are no ends to lines. They all intersect, or, they're all a closed shape. So we're going to look at what you can do with this once you've actually traced it. So up here, you can see that because it's a state-dependent control area, we now can see the image trace things. So for right now, I've just pulled the picture in, but the next thing I'm going to do is click on Image Trace. And it's going to go with whatever the default image tracing settings were before. But if I click on this little icon for Image Trace Panel, that's going to be showing you some things that are important. So first of all, looking in that top row, you can see we have several different settings for what kind of an image we're actually bringing in. We have auto color, camera, low color, grayscale. Oh, high color I skipped, which would be a photograph. We can do black and white or an outline. Now, even though you'd be tempted to trace this as an outline, we're actually going to trace it as black and white. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one. You can see down in the view, it's going to ask what we want to see once we trace the image. And again, you've got some options there. So you can see just the tracing. You could see the tracing with outlines, just the outlines, or the outlines with the source image behind it, kind of as an overlay, or just the source image. For this, I think I want to look at tracing result with outlines. I'm going to select that for the view. And I'm in black and white. And threshold, I'm going to have it kind of high to start with. And you can see that it's redrawing as I make adjustments on this panel. There are 24 paths. You can see here 24 different individual shapes that it has selected, and 2 colors, the black and the white. And I have preview checked, which is letting me see that live changes to any updates I do. So that is the basic setting panel, but I'm going to go ahead and click on this little down arrow for advanced. I can increase the tolerance and a lot of different things. Let me go in order here, I guess. So the threshold on a black and white thing, it's going to be pretty close to what you want it to be. But let me go back here and select the tracing result. So if my threshold is up high, it's completely black. But as I adjust that down, and it takes a minute to redraw, but I adjust that down, and you don't see it, the difference as much unless I really zoom into that line. And since this is just a straight black and white drawing with a pen, it doesn't show as much of a difference. But basically, that's how much is it going to trace around, how tight. So if there I am at the low threshold, here I am at a higher threshold. Down in these advanced, we've got the paths, and you know what that means. That is the path with the anchor points around each of those sections. We can say corners, we can say more or less corners if we want it to be smoother lines. noise. There's not a lot of noise on this one anyway, but we don't want a lot of noise or speckles or anything that would be messy around the line or around the tracing. If we wanted to simplify, we could do that. This is a pretty simple design already, so it's probably not going to give us a whole lot of anchor points. But if you clicked on that simplify box, if you had scads of anchor points at all the twists and turns and everything in the image, clicking that simplify box will actually limit those anchor points down to just what's needed to actually draw your image. Okay, we talked about noise and simplify. So method, this one, if you create or click on the abutting, it creates cutout paths that are going to go right up to the next path. So of course, there's a path there, and on this side, there's a path for each of those shapes. Whereas if I went on to this other setting, they're going to overlap and it'll create stacked paths. I'm just going to go with the abutting, and I'm not going to worry about these other settings, but I am going to tell it to ignore white because I don't want there to be a white box behind it. I only want the lines. And I'll show you what that will do. If I draw a shape, we'll go choose just a polygon. We'll draw that in, and let's make that a color. Oops, I've got my color panel closed. I'll just go choose that one. So on this shape, if I sent that backwards, it would actually hide behind my tracing. Go ahead and close that color. And let's see, we'll move that object. Well, gosh, this tells you that I even have to remind myself where things are here. Anyway, we could move that to front or back. I know, I'll go select it, duh. And that would let me place it or play with it. Right now it's just a path. There I can select the anchor points. But if this is behind my drawing, it wouldn't show up at all because the drawing has white on it, even though it shows that they kind of overlap. If I go back to my image trace settings and ignore the color white, then even if this green shape is behind my mountains, it's still going to show through because there won't be any white selected there. I hope that makes a little bit of sense to you. So I have my image tracing here. Let me reselect it. See if there's anything else I want to change. And I don't. It's looking pretty good to me. It's telling me all the information. And now you can see that it's telling me there's one color because I got rid of that white, which is what we wanted to do. Okay, so it's all traced. And now if I come down to my direct selection, let me jump off of there. I can go to my direct selection and I will be able to click the shapes that are actually in it and select those in. Okay, now that I have the settings all set how I want in the image trace, to actually create the tracing, I'm going to come up here to the top menu and click expand. And there are all my paths and all my anchor points. And there are a lot of anchor points. So I am going to go ahead and click my simplify box. And let's go back here. Select our image. I'm actually going to go back to before it was created. On my box. And for some reason, it is not wanting me to simplify. So I'm going to click that simplify box because I know that there were a lot of anchors there. I'm going to turn that down to kind of the middle area, and then I'm going to expand again. And I don't care so much about the line appearance because I'm using it to fill in to make my landscape. I don't need to have, so I'm adjusting the stroke here basically. And I don't need one that big. Well, doesn't matter. I'll just use it as an outline. And that could be a style too if you're using more of a coloring book outline. So I have my image trace created. I can click on my direct selection tool. And I can select one path. And then I can go in and fill that with the colors I want to. For my landscape, you know, on the mountains, we want to have darker up at the front usually and lighter at the back. So I'm actually going to choose this one. Nope, this one. And I'm going to make that my darkest blue. So I'll go into my colors. And let's see. I want to do something with blues. If there's one already in there, I'll use that. Okay, so I'm going to use my brightest color for now, and then I can fill that into my shape that I have. And excuse me just 1 second, I'm going to pause the recording for just a minute. Okay, so I made a little bit of a change. I went back and created my image trace as the automatic, the preset color. Let me just go back a little ways. So the reason I did that is I told you that when we left the white out as well, then it just created the lines, and I actually wanted it to create the shapes as well. So I went back and did that just on the first setting at the top of, let me just show you that. First setting up here, the preset, and then I did not tell it to ignore white because I actually do want to color this in with you for this type. Let me go ahead and select that, and I'm going to open my color guide back up. So you can see that this is a much quicker way that you can create those landscapes. We can also use the little drop down arrow here, and I can choose group selection, and I can choose the sections that I'm going to hold down shift and do it that way. Then I can go in and color the ones that I want just a little bit different, but I can color those pieces together if you want to do that. I'm going to jump back to our regular because that's what I enjoy using. I'm just going to hold down my shift key and select all the mountains of that color, and then I'm going to want to choose a lighter color behind there. I'll go ahead and select the others. Whoops. I didn't need to select all of them. Let me jump off of that. And I'll go back to that direct selection and hold the shift and select both of those. Okay, so now we're going to color this last part of the mountains. Let me see how I feel about this color. I'm going to go back to, no, I'll stick with that one. Okay, so let me deselect all of that, and you can see I've got that nice almost gradient look going backwards with the mountains. They're a little chunky, which maybe wasn't the style I was going for in the first place, but I also don't mind it. It's fine. I'm going to make my stroke black, and I'm actually going to go up and make that a bit heavier. So this is almost going to have like a coloring book look to it. I've still got my sky up there, and just for the heck of it, I think I'm gonna do a gradient on that. Let's see. Seems like kind of evening, so maybe we'll go with the purpley. I don't know. That might be a little weird. Let's go with a blue and see how that works. Okay, so I'm on gradient. Oh, well, that was dumb. I did gradient on my stroke instead of my path. So there, and I want to turn that so it's I think I'll go about 90 with that. But let's make this a light blue. And then that didn't go into play. Let's go with that. A light blue at the bottom, and then at the top we'll have kind of our nighttime sky color. That's nice, I like that. Okay, and that is how you could easily, with that image trace, put together a stylized landscape. You could add some silhouettes or trees, or make your different types of landscape, but go ahead and play with that image trace. Remember that we had a line drawing to start with, and then under file I did place, which placed my image here, and with that image still selected, I chose to do the image trace and had my settings. I did end up using this first auto color, and I didn't tell it to ignore white like I had in the first place. And I went with the abutting so that it created separate cutting out paths. And then I just kind of adjusted things to how I wanted them to be and how I wanted them to look. And then I selected with my direct selection each piece of it. You can hold down the shift key to select more than one and recolor them at the same time. And there you go. So get in and play with that a little. If you've already got your stylized landscape kind of shaped out, you could do a quick trace of it on a piece of paper or with a marker or something and bring it in, or you could find other images to try with that image trace. So I hope you enjoyed learning about that, and that is going to help you out in continuing along with your project.